everybody. I'm Laurie Handlers, and you're listening to an episode of Sex and Happiness. And I have on today one of my favorite people in the whole world, Dr. Martha Tara Lee. And Martha and I go way back. I don't know when we met, like a ridiculous amount of years ago. Let me tell you about her, and then I'm going to bring her in. So she has her PhD in sexology. She lives in Singapore. She's published a plethora of books. She could probably hold up like this, a deck of cards, all the books that she's written. She has traveled the world to bring to you her flair and her slant of Tantra and sexuality. And she studied with me once. And so we know each other well. When I say we know each other well, and I have visited her in Singapore and hung out with her in India and Singapore and the Philippines. And she's a brilliant woman who in some ways may be ahead of her time, because today what we're going to speak about is her new creation. And I'm going to let her tell you about that. So without further ado, I bring to you Martha Tara Lee.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you very much. Thanks for doing this.
You're welcome. Did I leave anything out that's like critical? I know. How many books have you?
Yeah, so I have 4 books, and one of them is actually banned in Singapore. It's banned book.
It's banned.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to show or sell it in Singapore. It's a Asian vulva photo book, and it's not even available on Amazon because Amazon thinks that we must have violated some copyright rule. But we send them the model release forms, and Amazon is just not interested in this book.
Wow, that's so weird.
I know. So then I have this like baby that's like a lost child.
Well, let's see what we can do about that. Maybe if we brainstorm, maybe something needs to happen, like it needs to be renamed or something, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. It's amazing though that you have 4 books. And also I didn't say that you have a private practice. You deal with issues about sexuality on the island of Singapore, in the city of Singapore. And that's not so easy because it's a very, very conservative place. And in your culture, in Chinese culture, that people don't talk about this stuff. And that's precisely why you've created something that we are going to talk about today. Because so you created the first Asian sexuality festival, Tantra Festival. How would you call it? What would you label it?
Yes, it's very much a sexuality festivals. All the presenters are Asians, and the target are Asians. However, of course, it's open to anybody who feels that they can benefit from this festival. What I've done is I've included top practitioners, my colleagues who are in US and Canada, who are Asian practitioners. So they will be able to provide the piece of the intellectual bit around sexuality. So one of them is healing after an affair. Another one is on desire discrepancy. And I don't want to assume what people know. So I'm also starting the festival with a session on understanding sex and sexuality. So I want to ease people into so-called the basics of sex, what everybody has around commonly asked questions, and easing them into being more comfortable with answering those commonly asked questions, like what's an open relationship, what's BDSM, how do I begin to do it? Everybody knows about stripping, but how do I do this for my partner? So we have different presenters bringing different aspects, including stripping on dance. So with the platform of Zoom, what has happened is allowed everybody to connect from their homes. You don't have to worry about, now I don't have to worry about the cost of venue and food, which always comes with the venue, and space constraints. So I'm so happy that with this coronavirus epidemic, that everybody's now more comfortable using technology. And through this 3 months, I have been part of 4 sexuality festival, including the one we were in together. So
Yeah.
it's really an honor that I'm getting opportunities that I wouldn't have gotten if not for the lockdown. And also I looked at my colleagues and went, well, they're doing amazing things. What am I doing? And so that's how the idea started to emerge. If I did something, it would have to be Asian Sexuality Festival, because that's where my heart is. I'm Asian myself and I've struggled. And for most of these festivals, I am the only Asian, except for One
Right.
World. There were 2.
In One World Festival, there were 2 Asians.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Oh, the woman from Hawaii?
Yeah, Ria, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Ria Yoshida. Oh, she lives in San Diego now, but she's a New Yorker.
Yeah, so Asian
Yeah. But
Americans.
there was another woman from Hawaii, Aya. A woman named
Okay,
Aya. Yeah. So she was on the One World Festival.
that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
because that festival had 100 presenters, and I think they ran like 24 hours for 7 days.
Yeah, 24 hours a day, 7 days. I had 4 presentations in that festival, and it was just like, oh my God. And the thing, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to say it to you because I'm sure you'll know this, but I know that other people won't know this. After presenting to the screen like this, and there's like 100 people or 200 or however many, I had like 20 and I had 300. And then one of the presentations I made was like 11 o'clock at night. And then afterwards, I'm just like, I'm so wired and there's no physical people here. There's nothing, there's no one to talk to. There's nobody to have a glass of wine with, nothing. And I was just like this, like, because it is very different being a presenter on a screen from being a presenter in a live thing. But the thing is, what you're mentioning and what is so true, our reach, like the fact that you were invited and you got the opportunities that you're talking about, the reach is global. That this crazy COVID thing is providing global reach in a way that we never had before. None of us.
Yeah, it's literally time and space collapsing.
Yes.
Because we are in different time zones, and then they get the recording as well, and then we get to use it. So time is also being distorted. So this is like going into the real, I don't know, matrix.
I think so. I think it is.
I really like it.
So let's talk more about this festival. I love the topics that you're bringing up. I guess I want to say this to you too, what I found out from being in the festivals that I was in so far. It's attracting a very beginner population, like people who would never, many people who would never, ever come to something you did or I did, like in a yoga studio or in a tent or wherever we would do the things we would do. And you and I have been together in some of those places. Some of the people that it's reaching through the technology of it, they would never come. They would never have come. They would never come out of their house. They would be too afraid or too embarrassed or too afraid someone would recognize them or, they'd be seen. And they came. A lot of people that, one of the rules of one of the festivals was they had to put themselves on screen for the beginning so that the tech people could check them in. And then they would just turn their screen off and they could just stay like that with no name. And you know what? I didn't care. I didn't care at all. They could have participated as much as or as little as they wanted. So I think that's what you're going to have in your festival. Tell us the name of the festival. We're going to say the name of the festival 10 times.
Okay, so it's called Sugar and Spice. Because spice is a huge part of our Asian culture, and who wouldn't like a little bit of sugar? So
Exactly.
yes,
Sugar and
sugar
spice.
and
I love it.
spice. So there are really two kind of tracks going on. There's the very, very basic, I'm going to say vanilla level. And then there's the more spicy part of what people are so afraid to venture into, let's say kink. And I have different panels. I have I have a sex worker panel. So that's quite pushing it. So there are 4 people on the sex worker panel. I have a panel on sex power, sex, money, and power.
That's
And
great.
I have a yellow panel. I have a yellow fever panel. So yellow fever is not a disease. It's actually when people are, they have an Asian fetish. So yes, I have the topics that I would love to have everybody start to have a flavor and understanding of themselves or of Asians. And of course, it's much more than that. So coming back to the virtual, during this time, I actually did 4 online sessions for people with breast cancer. So I, I am a locum sex educator with Singapore Cancer Society. So I see clients face to face, and they also asked me to run virtual workshops during this time. So what I found was, like never before, I was able to get questions that people would be too afraid to ask me in person. Like I was getting like 10, 20 questions, whereas if I did a live session, I would get 1 or 2. So it's like 10 times more questions than I would usually. People were able to change their names, take themselves off camera, and private message me. And I just love it so much that I was able to really get a better sense of the room than ever before. And so this is what I can see the potential of this festival. People being able to showcase themselves and their work, and actually being able to get more clients, and people seeking support are able to also find the practitioners who are best for them.
It's wonderful. I love the idea. I love the yellow fever panel. I think that's, I was going to say that to you earlier. You know, this, you said the festival is for Asians and just anybody. And I thought to myself, yeah, and people who are like, uh, have desires to be with Asians, you know, like they can learn something as well. People do have fetishes. People do have that. So I like, it's great. Your humor is, you know, it's sometimes like you just say it and you're not laughing, but I know that you have this great sense of humor, and I feel like you, I feel like you infused it into, you know, what you're doing. I love the tracks that you're having. So how long is the festival going to be for? Is it like 2 days?
It's 2 weeks.
Oh, it's 2 weeks.
Yes, so we are 2 weeks
Oh my
on a week.
goodness.
Every weekday we're gonna have 2, and on a weekend we'll have at least 4. So
Oh,
there
I see.
are,
Okay, so you spread it out instead of doing it the way the other festivals were. You
yeah.
spread it.
So if it's a weekday, then it's just 2 per day. If it's a weekend, that's 4. All of them are recorded. So yeah, we have 40 sessions and we have 30 over presenters. So I've chosen people who are established and people who are not so established, and people who are just doing personal sharing as well. Doesn't really matter. It's a mix of basically different people who have something to share and something to teach. So that we see that actually it's Asians. Asians do talk about sex.
I'm going to give you the bell for that. Yay.
Asians have sex too.
Yeah.
It used to hurt me a lot that my clients said, "Oh, you're the first person that I've ever talked to about sex. I don't even talk about it with my wife." And then what more, an Asian? So an Asian talking to an Asian practitioner and saying, "Wow, I thought like this whole thing about sex, this is like a white people thing." Asians do have sex, but they don't see Asians talking about sex and embracing it and loving sex. And that's what I feel will be so healing for the people attending it.
That's super. So, and you have representation of like every culture of Asian?
Yeah, so I have Indians, I have Malays, I have people, I try, you know, people from Malaysia, from Philippines, from US, from Canada. So I try to get the diversity. This being the first time, I didn't want to push the envelope too far, and I was really just working with the people that I could get and people that I already knew, and then it started to spread a bit more. So like friends of friends. So that started to happen, and it was very interesting that actually in Manila, they have quite a vibrant kink community. They're actually much more open about sex and sexuality than Singapore.
Wow, and you and I were in Manila and we didn't even know that. We just spent our evening in a pizza place.
Yes, yes. It's pretty huge. They're very polished, and so I'm very happy to get people from Manila as well, and they speak well, you know.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm really pleased about this. So I have some ideas about spreading the ticket sales and stuff like that. I feel like everybody who's part of it should be responsible for selling tickets, and stuff like that. And I also, by doing this show together, I'm hoping that this reaches a bunch of people who you wouldn't ordinarily reach by being on my show. And I'm going to post it to a lot of groups so that you'll pick up some people along the way. Um, I know that I'm just so excited about it. I have to tell you that. Like when you sent me an email to tell me about it, and I just went, "You're kidding! This is great." I don't like. I just have a thing. Like when people are creative and they put together something nobody ever did before. This would have to be nobody ever did this before, live or virtual. But I think virtual is going to act in your favor. I really think that virtual is going to act in your favor because I think that some people will come who, like I said, who would just never do anything like this.
Yes, and the amazing thing, you wouldn't believe the timing of what is happening. So I was approached by this Indian organization. It's led by students. They are sex positive students. They want to, of course, spread sex education message. And so they asked me to be part of a panel. And I thought, well, oh yeah, maybe I should ask them whether they want to help me with my festival. So the organization is sending about 20, 30 volunteers to help me with the festival. So they are providing, of course, stereotyping.
Technology.
Yes, so they are providing the tech support for all the sessions. So each session will have two tech support, and so we are meeting the volunteers, we're training them, and students being students. So we'll let them come into the festival. We'll let them also get some passes so they can have their friends. So we easily get 100 people easily. That's so I don't have to worry about like, can I even, it's not nice when you're a presenter and you have no no participants. So at least that part is covered, and everything else is just such a blessing. So not only am I with the first festival able to partner with another organization that believes in the same things that I do, but also reach out to young people. And that's so important because some of the most distorted and repressed people that I've met from Asia actually are Indians themselves. And so working with this Indian organization, I'm just so happy, actually, really, really happy, because I was so worried about how am I going to pull this off by myself. I'm one
Yeah.
person. I cannot be in every session trying to do everything. I just cannot.
No, of course not. You're going to have to sleep sometimes. But, it's as a presenter in a festival, it's so important to have tech support. I can just tell you that because whatever can go wrong will. I've had people go into the session and get locked out, like that their internet kicked them off. And then they come back into the waiting room, but because I'm presenting that you can't have the chat doesn't happen, or they're in the waiting room so they can't chat to the tech person. So a lot of things like that happen. I also I had an experience of doing Laurie Han, and I figured out how to put the music in after whatever. And then, but I was trying to talk into my microphone and the music was playing, and I found out that that doesn't work. So I found, I learned by trial and error certain things that you can't do, and having good tech support makes all the difference in the world. They could tell you, like, okay, if you have the music streaming through the system, you can't talk into your microphone. It doesn't silence you, but every time you talk, the music goes lower. So I found out a lot of things, and also a lot of people got, in many of the festivals, a lot of people's internet kicked them off. And then they had to send a note on Facebook to the tech people to let them back in. So all kinds of things happen. So this is great that you have support, and
Now I'm scared.
Indian young people are going to be supporting you. No, they're going to read everything. They're going to YouTube every single thing on Zoom. They're going to find out everything. And it's good because Indian people need a lot of sex education. Lots, lots and lots.
Yeah, with
So it's
this,
great.
yeah, you know how like in some of the well, not all of India, but some parts of them, they segregate men and women. They don't interact at all, and so there's a lot of misconceptions around gender that's being construed as well.
Yes, I totally get it. Having spent many, many times, many days in India, I totally get that. I think it's wonderful. All right, so I just want to check, yeah. Let's tell people again. So they go to sugarandspice.com.
Sugarandspice.asia.
Oh, .asia. Okay. Sugarandspice.asia. This will go correct in the notes. Sugarandspice.asia. This is for, when does it start?
1st of August to 15. So 2 weeks.
August, okay, August 1st to the 15th, 2 sessions a day during the week, 4 sessions on weekends, and everything about you ever wanted to know about sex and Asians from the very from the very vanilla, which is like beginner stuff, beginner sex, talking about being able to talk about sex, to kink, to other kinds of, to a panel of sex workers. That's amazing. It's amazing that you got them to say yes. Fabulous. And like I encourage a lot of people to go to this. I don't, it doesn't matter whether you're Asian or not. It matters that there's a lot. Martha is a super creative human being. You have to be to write 4 books and actually be doing sex therapy practice in Singapore. She had to be super creative to even do that. So I think this is worth supporting and going to if you have curiosity, please. And if you have friends who are interested in Asians, and if you have Asian friends, you should tell them about this too, because maybe they don't talk about it. I don't know. I don't know. Any last words, any parting thing you want to tell people, Miss Sugar and Spice?
Yes, so yes, even though we have all Asians, like you said, it is open to anybody. I think the lack of conversations around sex and sex education is not just for Asians, of course. I have worked with so many people who are very, very, very inhibited around sex. So this is really open to anybody, and I try to make the program have a lot of diversity and variety in the topics. So it's really different from the other festivals that I've been in, like Tantra, all Tantra, So this is for this is for men on the street. This is for people, anybody who eats and breathes and has sex.
Yeah, or isn't having sex and needs to have sex. Because pleasure is your birthright. And I want to tell you that I just called her Miss Sugar and Spice, but most of the people I know call her Dr. Lee. So you want to know, I mean, we can fool around because we know each other so well, but this is a doctor of sexuality and of sexology, and she put in her time and energy studying. So with all due respect, Martha, I'm thrilled for you, and I'm going to get this message out there to people and let them know about it. Go to sugarandspice.asia. and find out more about this festival. You have 2 weeks, so don't, I mean, get on it. If you don't get to every session, it's still going to be taped, and these could be some really interesting sessions, very different from other festivals. So go there. So everybody, thanks for listening to Sex and Happiness and watching Sex and Happiness today. This is Laurie Handlers. I am thrilled that you are my audience. I'm thrilled that you are my guest. And please tune in next week when I will have another amazing guest on Sex and Happiness. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.